Hey class, this is Lieutenant Commander Streetpack. I'm doing some augmentation videos for the knife navigation class. This video is going to be specifically for the front of the Wizwheel, which basically takes care of Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 for the book. In class we've talked about this part of your Wizwheel for calculating rate questions and fuel conversion questions. And we also talked about in Chapter 4 that this Wizwheel does true airspeed calculations as well. So I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of details. I'm just going over the overview again when you get lost and you're looking to figure out what are some of the things I need to be looking for on my Wizwheel. This is the slide for that, or this is the video for that. So again, I recommend you go through the book again if you have any questions. But if you're having a hard time spinning this thing and trying to figure out what's going on, just remember that the book is better in terms of explaining what we're using this for. This slide or this video is for showing you guys how to use it, the Wizwheel. So anyway, there's the top portion of your Wizwheel. You can tell this is a beat up Wizwheel, but it gets the job done. So we have top portion is clear area here, or the white area. It's got a bunch of numbers on there. Remember that the numbers represent whatever value you want to make it using the floating decimal place. So a 10 can be a 1, it can be 100, it could be a 0.1. It's just where you move the decimal place, either your estimate or your answer is what the number is supposed to be. So, like I said, these numbers are fixed. You have to figure out what value you want to represent first, and then use the corresponding fixed number on your Wizwheel using the floating decimal place. Okay. Between 10 and 11, there's 10 tick marks, which means that every tick mark between 10 and 11 is represented by 0.1 value of between. So there's 1/10 is each tick mark basically between 10 and 11. And the same goes from 10 to 12, 12 to 13, 13 to 14, 14 to 15. Okay. Once you get to 15, there's only 5 tick marks between 15 and 16. So each tick mark represents a 0.2 value or 1/5 value between 15 and 16. Also, that goes all the way until you get to. It keeps going, by the way, because it's this is 20, this is 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It's the same number of tick marks all through here. The only thing is that because the values are the numbers are kind of bigger because it's 20s. They don't label these, but just know that if you bracket, between 20 and 25, and so that means that this is 21, 22, 23, 24. So there's still 5 tick marks between each value, so that's the same. It's a fifth until you get to 30. Between 30 and 31, and again, just double check. So 30, 35, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Right. So there's only 2 tick marks between 30 and 31, so each decimal or each tick mark is a 0.5 or half of a value. Okay. Then you get all the way, looks like to 60. Yep. Then you get to 60. Now we're looking at each tick mark is a 1. And you can tell because this is 70, this is 80, that's 90. I know you can't see this, but it's 70. So 61, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So each one's a value 60 to 70. And that goes all the way till you get to 99. Then it resets. Okay. Something else to keep in mind is the numbers below that you can rotate around. They correspond to the same values as well. The tick marks are the same distance away from each other, and if you want to verify that, you just move the two together, and all the values line up. There are some differences in the denominator because you have indexes. So your hours index or in minutes is 60 minutes in an hour. So you have a 1 here for 1 hour. And that's your standard rate index. So when they say standard rates, it means because it's the most common rate we use to calculate using for rate questions. Rate equals anything that involves time. Okay, so the denominator on this Wizwheel, so and I'm going to keep calling them numerators and denominators. Numerators on the top, denominators on the bottom. So this is like a fraction, right? Numerator, denominator. Your denominator is going to be time when it's a rate question. So anytime there's a rate question, time is in the denominator. So one type of rate question is speed. So for speed, you have distance over time. So this would be 60 knots, or 60 nautical miles per 1 hour. So you've gone 60 nautical miles in 1 hour. Not 1 minute, 1 hour, okay? Or 60 minutes. All right? So by setting this up, 60 over 1 hour, you've solved for every equation that involves a ground speed of 60 knots. So if you're trying to figure out, hey, how many minutes do I travel if I go 1 mile or 1 nautical mile? Well, so again, you go, what is in the numerator? Numerator is distance, so 1 nautical mile is distance, so you have to go to the numerator, and 1 nautical mile means 1. But there's no 1 on this Wizwheel, all you have is the 10. So you use the 10, you just move the floating decimal place over 1, and there it is. So there's 1. You look down, and it says 10. Interesting. Okay, so I'm not sure if that's 10 minutes, or if it's 1 minute, or if this is 10 seconds or something like that. Well, I do know that it's not seconds. And you know why? Because when you use standard rate index, you're using minutes in the denominator. That means every single value across the denominator is in the value of minutes. Now, it could be a decimal minute, because of floating decimal place, you can have a decimal minute, you can have 100 minutes, you can have 0.01 minutes, something like that. So how do we know what the right value is? Well, that's when you estimate. So you have to estimate first your answer, and then go ahead and put it in your Wizwheel to solve. Okay, so 60 nautical miles per hour, which you should know, every minute you travel is equal to 1 nautical mile. Okay, so this is a 1-to-1. And they line up pretty well, right? And it makes sense too, because, you know, again, if you're driving in your car, you're going 60 miles an hour, every minute you're going 1 mile, right? So that makes sense here. But if you have like weird values, like say you have gone 55 miles an hour or 500 miles an hour, so you'd line that up, 500 over 1. You look at this and be like, okay, 500 over 1. I know that the floating decimal place is there. So 500 over 1. If I was to solve for, again, if I was like, hey, I want to know how far I travel in 1 minute, I can go to the 10's value in the denominator for 1 minute, and then I can look up and see, okay, well, how far did I travel? Well, it could be 84 or 83.5. It could be 8.3. It could be 0.83. It could be 803. We know it's not 803 because 1 hour you've gone 500 knots, right? But we know we can use estimation to kind of estimate, or to kind of get a swag of what our answer is going to be. So with our estimation and rate questions, you can, well, especially with ground speed, you can use a rule of 60, which we'll talk about in class. So use a rule of 60 with 500. 500 is close enough to like 480 that you know that it's an 8 over 1 is is basically 8 nautical miles per minute. Okay, so when you go over here, it's 8.3 or 8.4, so like 8.35 or something to 1 minute. So you can count 8.35 nautical miles in 1 minute. Okay, so that's how you are going to use this thing to solve. The other rate question that you might get is fuel flow. Okay, so that means pounds on the numerator and time in the denominator. Okay, pounds in the numerator, time in the denominator. It can be standard rate, it could be high speed index, or it could be the tens index for hours, which we don't really use very much. So it's either between the standard rate or the high speed index. We'll do high speed index in another video, but just know that that's your standard rate. That's your rate questions. Those two. The last one would be the last type of question we use to solve using the top portion here is your conversion, your fuel conversion. Okay, so what is a fuel conversion? Well, you're converting gallons to pounds and pounds to gallons. So what we're going to need for that is our conversion rate or ratio, and that just means pounds per 1 gallon. The question will always give it to you, and it's going to be somewhere between 5 and 7. So you can have anywhere between 5 pounds per gallon, or 7 pounds per gallon. So normally it's around 6. So you're going to get, so say it's 6 pounds per gallon, you'll just go ahead and use the tens index on the denominator and put it under 6 or 60, right? So that's 6-to-1 ratio, pounds per gallon. And then you can convert everything, again, remembering that the numerator is pounds, the denominator is in gallons. Okay, remember to estimate. Always do a slight estimation or a small estimation prior to going to your Wizwheel. Sometimes you have to do a more thorough estimation, especially if it's like a multi-step question. You're definitely going to want to do that. Okay. All right. So it's already been 12 minutes. We'll do another video on how to use this bottom section for true airspeed. Hope you guys are studying well and having a good day.